Welcome back to Arkansas First Reports, where we bring you the facts, the truth, and the voices that matter most to the Arkansas conservatives. I'm your host, Kandi Cox. Today, we're diving into Act 752, formerly the Senate Bill 406. The legislation signed into law by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders that changes how real estate deeds are recorded in the state of Arkansas. This is a new law requires individuals presenting a deed for recording, either in person or by mail, to provide a valid photo ID or driver's license. That ID is not only verified, but recorded under seal as part of the official filing. However, this requirement excludes attorneys, realtors, banks, title agents, and government officials, among others. So, what does this mean for private property owners? Does it help curb fraud, or does it open the door to unnecessary government surveillance or burdensome red tape? We, we're going to also talk about real IDs, which everyone has questions on. So we're going to touch on those things today as well. To help us unpack all of this, I'm honored to welcome Myka Samples, the Circuit Clerk of Saline County. Myka has had years of experience not only as a circuit clerk, but she was formerly the office manager for the Benton County Circuit Clerk and former juvenile probation officer. So she's seen firsthand how policy changes impact both our court system and everyday Arkansans. Myka, welcome to the show. We're so glad to have you today.
Thank you for asking me to be here today.
Yeah, this is something that's really important and it impacts your office, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. So before we get into our questions, I'm just going to give a quick summary for our listeners. Act 752 requires the grantor, that's the person transferring the ownership, to show a valid government issued photo ID when submitting the deed for recording. This applies to in person and by mail, with copies of the ID being attached sealed with the deed. The goal is to increase verification to prevent deed fraud, right?
Correct.
Okay. But the bill also includes broad exemptions for industry professionals and government actors. So let's dig in, starting with the fraud. Myka, did you feel that this bill was necessary?
Absolutely. We're seeing an, a lot of fraud across the state of Arkansas. Actually, they're saying that this is the fastest white-collar crime through United States.
Mm-hmm.
We've experienced it in Saline County.
Right.
And I've heard other circuit clerks talk about how they've experienced it of, people being fraudulently taken upon from their property. We recently had someone that their property was fraudulently taken, and it actually cost them $30,000 to get their property back.
Oh, wow.
So I've been from day one, when I went into office in 2016, the recording vendor that we have, that was one of the questions I asked. What can we do to help our citizens to be alerted if something is recorded in our office that was not supposed to be recorded?
Right.
And they actually had a program called Property Fraud Alert.
Yep.
So we've been signing up citizens here in Saline County, because it's only for Saline County citizens, Property Fraud Alert since 2016.
Yes. I remember you talking about that back then. You and I were at I think it was Power Women, like Saline County Power Women. I think that was the meeting that we were asking. You had presented that, and I went right after and registered, our property. So, yeah, you've been at that for a long time. And that's an easy process, actually. Tell our listeners about that process that are here in Saline County.
Oh, it's very easy to sign up. It's free
Uh-huh.
to the citizens. And since you've actually signed up now, we have a third alert. You can actually receive a text. But all you got to do is present your name on how something would be recorded. And if you do have, say if you're going to buy some property,
Right.
and you're going to have a mortgage and a deed recorded, you'll get notified for that, which is great. Then you know that your paperwork is recorded, and if it's safely stored with us. But if you get a notification and it's nothing you were expecting, then you just call our office and you ask what was recorded, and we can tell you immediately. So that is a great way of alerting our citizens, but there was nothing, and it still is nothing that can help our citizens on the back end.
Right.
And my goal is to eventually get that probably in next legislation to help our citizens on the back end, because it is not fair for someone to have their savings account cleaned out to get their property back that they own.
Right.
That's not fair. I'm so passionate about it.
Right.
And that is why I worked so hard with Senator Clark on this bill, and had several meetings with the title industries, with the Circuit Clerk Association, with the citizens that was concerned about it, to say what can we do to start now. This law that's gone into effect, we know it's not perfect,
Right.
but it's something that will start now to help our citizens.
Yeah. So when you look at this, one of the things I always ask is, does this bill have teeth, right? So what, if I ask you, what does this bill have teeth? In other words, where is the accountability at on this?
Recently, or I won't say recently, if someone, before this bill was passed, if someone mailed in a quitclaim deed, because that's where it is happening, is when someone pays off their mortgage,
Right.
then the bad actors is looking at, okay, this mortgage has been paid off.
Right.
And unfortunately, you can go and get a quitclaim deed anywhere from Office Depot. You can get it offline. And if you find someone that is a notary that wants to, to be a bad actor also,
Make a little cash in their pocket.
right. And we see a lot of it comes from other states or other countries. So, if from California, Florida, and with Saline County, since we do have Hot Springs Village, part of Hot Springs Village is in Saline County. So you have a lot of citizens that may live here in the summer.
Right.
And in the winter, they go home to Florida or, or somewhere like that. And their property could be really targeted because it's not occupied all the time. So when you say, does this bill have teeth? When I met with one of the title industry guys, he actually said that he has paperwork sitting on his desk right now that he felt like, or he still feels like, it's fraudulent paperwork. They're even going further to actually make the title work look like it's real. And this came from another country.
Wow.
So he's thinking, what can I do to just see what else information they can send me? So he made a phone call and said, hey, send me a copy of your driver's license.
Right.
And just so we can verify, since you're from, another country, that paperwork's still sitting there.
Yeah.
And that's what made us think, well, maybe we need some kind of verification. That's what we're focusing on,
right,
is those that are actually mailed in from another state or from another country.
Right.
And we're hoping that it will just deter the bad actors right now.
Yeah.
By asking for a copy of an ID or a driver's license. And so that's just a beginning.
Right.
A beginning, and hopefully that if they do mail in a quitclaim deed or even a warranty deed, and we make that phone call or mail it back to them that states you need to mail in a copy of your ID or driver's license, they won't do that. Because that gives the investigators and that citizen the opportunity to turn all that paperwork over to the police station. Because in the past, there wasn't anything. There was nothing to ID these people. We're aware that anybody can do a fake driver's license.
Right.
But that's, like I said, it's a beginning.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will deter, the bad actors.
Right.
So, and I'm already working with our vendors to even broaden this for the next legislation that can really head it off in the beginning stage.
Right.
We've already started. I've got a meeting. Hopefully, get a meeting scheduled with the Secretary of State's office on notary.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we add notary fraud in there,
Right.
then that's really going to be good. Because, I mentioned earlier
Right.
that if you can get somebody that could help, maybe their notary is expired.
Right.
And we've recently experienced that,
Mm-hmm.
that they didn't want to take the new notary test. So we noticed that we happened to get the paperwork, 2 sets of paperwork in the same day with the same notary, but the dates were different.
Mm.
And so I made a complaint to the Secretary of State's office, and sure enough, it was an expired notary, and that notary was just changing the date. So we are already in the process with our recording vendor that would be able to tap in I'm not a computer person.
Right. Right.
But they would be able to be linked into the Secretary of State's office on the notary information. So when we're entering notary information, if it is expired
Mm-hmm.
or if it's not a good notary, we're alerted immediately.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this bill exempts a wide range of professionals such as lawyers, realtors, banks, and government officials. From your position in the clerk's office, do you see these exemptions as making sense, or do they create an uneven application of the law?
Um, I see it making sense
Okay.
because we get so many deeds from a realtor or a bank. The title industries, we get stuff from the land commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, most of those are electronic recording.
Mm-hmm.
We have, if for those that doesn't know what electronic recording is, it's a process to be able, if you and I went to a bank to close on, if you're selling me your property and we're at the bank, we can sign it right there. They electronically record it to our office. And before we leave,
Right.
we've got the paperwork.
Right.
Where in the past, we would sign it, it would go through the mail.
Right.
And then maybe about a week later, we would get our paperwork. So a lot of that is electronic recording. So I feel like we're safe there. For individuals, and I'll just tell you experience that we had. I'm responsible for the jurors.
Right.
So we have jury orientation 3 times a year. And I always tell our jurors about property fraud.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a brother that was on jury duty, and he signed up for property fraud alert. And his mother had recently passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a brother, and he was getting 5 acres. The father had already passed away, so he was getting 5 acres. His brother was getting 5 acres.
Mm-hmm.
Well, unfortunately, his brother did a quitclaim deed stating that he was going to get all of it. And so the brother that signed up for property fraud was alerted immediately. Well, since they had an attorney, it was able to be stopped at that point. Property fraud has become such a big issue that it used to be a misdemeanor.
Right.
Now it's felony. That has been changed to a felony charge. So it's not only that you've got people from other countries or other states trying to take this, it could actually be a friend or a family member.
Right.
So
family gets a little ugly when there's someone that has passed away.
It does. So if this bill would have been in place at that time, and when the brother come in to record that quitclaim deed, and we asked for a copy of his driver's license, maybe it would have made him think twice before recording it. Or if he would have recorded it, we'd have had a copy of that. And like I said, it's going to be under seal.
Right.
No nobody from the public will be able to see any of the driver's license or information. The only people that can see that would be the courts or an investigator.
Right.
So that was really big. We really pushed that would have to be under seal because I wouldn't want my information out to the public like that.
Right. And I think that that's something that people do get concerned about is their information being leaked.
Yes. No, it would definitely be under seal.
Right.
So that's why we really thought about, yes, these entities, we get so many recordings from these other entities. We would be constantly, we need your driver's license. Also with these entities, they have a real estate number or an ID, that they have to put on the paperwork, where an individual doesn't. And so we're just trying any way we can to protect the citizen, whether it be a bad actor that we don't know, or even like just the example I just used, a family member.
Right.
Because like you said, when it comes to money,
Oh, yeah.
things come out. So, like I said earlier, it's not perfect. Maybe we'll see in this next 2 years that it's causing a headache or it's causing some big issues that we need to go back in and look. And that's what Senator Clark said when he presented on the floor. This is a bill that's not going to stop here.
Right.
We're going to continue to probably strengthen it. And I've already been working with vendors to even make it stronger 2 years from now. So, to link to our property fraud alert.
Now, is Saline County the only county that has the fraud alert?
No, there is, out of 75 counties, I would probably say there's maybe 40 or 50.
Okay.
And it's because it's your e-recording vendor that has to provide the property fraud alert. I am proud to say that Saline County is leading in signing up citizens for property fraud alert, because that's how passionate my office is of getting people signed up for property fraud alert.
Well, we don't like to see anyone being taken advantage of. You mentioned like at Hot Springs Village. I mean, you just got a lot of older people out there, and they're such an easy target.
Yes. I would say probably about a year ago, I had a citizen from Saline County reach out to me because he was notified from a title company, and I want to say it was either Northwest or Northeast Arkansas, and this gentleman has over 40 acres here in Saline County. And the title company called him and said, "Are you selling your 40 acres?" And he said, "No, sir, I'm not." And he said, "Well, I've got paperwork here that doesn't look it to me." And I think the title industries and everybody is starting to really recognize that there is a problem and noticing if it's bad title work.
Right.
And I want to say that this paperwork came from California. And it really alerted him. And so he called the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General's office directed him to my office to get signed up. And I forget, and I should have looked at this, Kandi, but I forget there was a magazine that came and did an article with me and him about this property fraud alert.
Right.
Because if this title company would not have called it or contacted him, that it was at the final stages of being signed. He would not have been aware of this until probably after he got his taxes or or something like that. And that was over 40 acres.
Right.
And so we've seen it's happening.
Yeah.
And anything that, the way I look at this act is anything that we can do to help our citizens. It may be a burden on the honest citizens.
Right.
But if it was me, I would be glad. I would gladly give a copy of my driver's license, knowing that it's going to be under sealed, knowing that the circuit clerk's office is doing that with everybody. Because if somebody took my property, it may be a legitimate driver's license or it may be fake, but that is something that can start with the investigation. And I truly believe that in next legislation, if we can get through the idea that I have in my mind to help citizens on the back end, it's going to help speed also the court process up for people to get their property back immediately.
Right. Let me ask you, going back to the fraud alert that Saline County has, and as you stated, some other counties in Arkansas. When you talked to us about that, I went and signed up. I actually went to down to the clerk's office, and so is that something that you can go online and do here in Saline County as well?
Yes.
Okay.
You can go to the Saline County website,
Uh-huh.
click on the Circuit Clerk tab, and then there's a property fraud alert.
Okay.
And you sign up. Everybody, before my mother passed away, I signed her up.
Right.
She's still signed up because we've not, closed out on the estate or anything like that. And you want to put down every name that you could think that it would be recorded in.
Right.
And but you have the opportunity to be notified by an email, a phone call, or a text, or you could choose 2 of the 3 or all 3. And you will be notified once we record it and it's pushed out. Like if we record something today,
Right.
you would be notified first thing in the morning because it updates during the night.
Gotcha.
And then that way you call our office, and at this time we'd have to instruct you to call an attorney, come up. We would give you the paperwork, especially if we start recording driver's license. We can give you, since you're the owner of that land, all that information to be able to take to the police department and start your investigation. I just wish that we had time this session to be able to help the citizens on the back end. And that is my goal. I'm 100% in on this idea to be able to help the citizens on the back end where it does not cost them a dime
Right.
to get their property back.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I loved about the fraud on the fraud alert is because you see on TV the advertisements where you can pay for this system that will protect you, and but you're paying for a service where right here in Saline County you don't have to pay for it. It's free. It's a free service that our county is offering.
Not.
So what are the logistical impacts on your office with this new requirement to verify and file under seal? Do you feel that it's a burden on? I know you're already stretched in the clerk's office. We were talking about how you guys don't get a downtime, and I know you're passionate about it, and I can appreciate that. But does it give some burden upon your office?
It doesn't.
Uh-huh.
It's just another page that we record, and it's just literally a click of the button to seal that one page.
Gotcha.
So it's not
Okay.
at all. And I want to add, we're talking about property fraud,
Right.
and your property that is fraudulently taken. This also alerts you if somebody puts a false lien against you. We've seen that.
Okay.
You've got those bad actors that, unfortunately, they look at obituaries and they focus on the elderly.
Yeah.
Especially the women.
Yeah.
So what do? They do a drive-by. If it's summertime and they feel like, we can mow their yard.
Yeah.
Or after a bad storm,
they
need their roof replaced.
Oh, yeah. They come out like the mad dogs.
Exactly. So they go and they meet this wonderful elderly lady and says, I can mow your yard for, an amount.
Right.
Or your roof needs to be replaced. And that person's paid. Okay? And paid with a check, cash, whatever. And they can go down to the clerk's office and put a lien against her saying that they were never paid. When something happens to her, guess who's stuck with the bill?
Yeah.
The family. How is the family going to prove it? What about if they paid cash? Family's not going to be able to prove that there was cash paid to fix that roof or to mow the yard. And when the estate's sold, that person's paid again.
Right.
So it alerts you if there's a lien
Right.
put against you. So it's not only it's for property fraud, it just protects you all the way around. If anything is recorded, since we are the record keeper of the county,
Right.
it will alert you on anything that's recorded.
Okay, very good. Do you think that Act 752 presents any privacy or constitutional concerns for citizens who must submit a government issued ID with personal property filing?
I don't, since it's going to be under seal.
Okay.
That when we first talked about this bill, we actually discussed on just sealing part of the driver's license.
Uh huh.
And the more we talked about it and talked about issues like that, to have citizens concerned, I don't want my picture out there, or, because we were going to seal the date of birth,
Right.
driver's license number, address. Well, by the time we sealed everything, you're pretty much just the whole thing. So that's when we came up and said, we'll just seal the whole driver's license.
Right.
Because we do want to protect the honest people. But we're really hoping that the honest, good working people that has worked hard their whole life
Right.
finally pay off their property will understand that, yeah, it may be a burden for you to give us your copy of your driver's license or ID, but we're guaranteeing you're going to be protected. It's going to be sealed. Nobody else will be able to see your information.
Mm-hmm.
And that we're just trying to protect everyone around, because there are bad actors out there.
Right.
And I don't want to see anything or any of our citizens get taken advantage of.
Well, Myka, you and I are old enough to remember a time when you would get your checks, right? And on your checks would have your driver's license, it would have your name, your address, your driver's license number, and your date of birth.
Yes,
Like, it was all out there.
it was. And if it wasn't, wherever you wrote a check, they wrote it on there.
Yeah. Exactly. That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know many people at all, except for the older people that use checks, so often now.
Right.
But yeah, I was thinking about that as I was preparing for our time together. I remember when I got my first set of checks, all of that was on there, and even back then, I thought that was crazy to have all that information out there.
Yeah. But when you think about it, though, that if it was a bad check, it helped the prosecutor's office
Uh huh.
find that person or file something like person. That's kind of what we're hoping with the driver's license.
Right.
Even though it may.
Well, if I was walking in Walgreens and all that, because I mean, this was the time when, everybody used checks when they would go to the grocery store or whatever, and all that was on there. And so if you have a cashier that was a bad actor, they would have all of that information.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm. Yeah. So, from a conservative standpoint, our audience is always watching for government overreach. Do you believe that this is a necessary safeguard or a slippery slope to bigger government bureaucracy and private property business?
Um, I'm hoping the citizens will take it that is a safeguard,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I mean, Candy, I see it,
Right.
and I hear about it. I get articles all the time from our vendor that shares stories of property taken across the United States,
Right.
and something needs to be done.
Right.
Something needs to be done. So I'm hoping that the citizens will see that this was a necessary law,
Mhm.
and that we're going to continue to work on making it harder for these bad actors to take citizens' property.
Right.
So be prepared. In a couple of years, we're going to be making some changes. And like I said, I've already got some ideas, and already working with vendors to, because we don't want the counties to be out of any money
Right.
to add, or unnecessary money to add this program and everything to the recording, the recording vendors and stuff like that. But it's necessary. It's important to protect our citizens.
Mhm. What kind of feedback are you getting from other circuit clerks?
Um, all positive.
Mhm.
They feel the same way I do.
Mhm.
And if they if their e-recording vendor does not offer property fraud alert, the other vendors, like my vendor,
Right.
they can offer property fraud alert, just that part, to their e-recording system. So that's one of the things that we're going to talk about. We have got our continuing education course coming up in June. And so we're going to go over all of this with the circuit clerks, especially the ones that doesn't have the property fraud alert. That if you want to go ahead and sign up with a vendor to give your citizens the property fraud alert, it's there. It's available. This is also, this law that was passed is also for those circuit clerks that doesn't have property fraud alert. You don't have to have property fraud alert to have this process.
Right, right. So how does that fiscally impact the county to add that?
For our county, it was part of my program already. This is one main reason that I went with this vendor, because there was two things I was very passionate about: property fraud and honor rewards for our veterans. I want our veterans taken care of, and that's what sold me on this vendor. On top of my deputies that does the recording loves their program. It's easy to work in. So with my contract, any update, anything that they add to their system is part of our contract. I don't know what their fee would be for a clerk's office that doesn't have property fraud alert
Right.
to be added, but I don't think it would be a lot. We have on our budget, we have, like, in our recording part, we have a 75% fund and a 25% fund, that it was passed in law that everything that we record, so much goes to the 25% fund, and that helps with all your updates for recording
Right.
that office. And we actually have a law out there that class 6 and 7, which we're class 6, all the class 6 and 7, everything that we record, $1 is set to the side. And that is grants it's set aside for a grant for counties that are 5 below, that they can apply for this grant to update, add anything that they can to their recording office. So there's grants out there for that.
Right.
And I think that would be utilized a lot, especially the idea that I have for next legislation. We will have to go back and update that grant information to say this could be added. And I don't think that would be a problem to
Okay.
add all that. So I don't think it's going to be a big impact.
Okay. Well, before we move on to the real IDs, is there anything else about this act that you feel is important to bring up or talk about?
Well, I just would like to tell our citizens that as we're doing this, it'll go in effect in August. If there is any concerns, or if they see that it is a burden, please reach out to me.
Okay.
Because, like I said, I worked really hard with Senator Clark with this bill, me and a couple other circuit clerks, and we're open for suggestions. And we're open to try to make this even better, because, like I said, we're going to come back in 2 years and try to make it better. Just have patience with us. Understand why we're doing it, and just reach out to me.
Right.
And I'll be happy to explain or sit down or, take their suggestions and present it.
Right. Right.
So,
Okay. Well, let's talk about the real ID. Now, May 5th, is that the deadline?
that's what I'm hearing. But, it changes all the time. But I think this one's going to be pretty firm.
Okay. Well, it's been out there for a while.
It has.
And I told you I've dragged my feet on it, and I need to get mine done. I told you I don't really fly often, but I do go in government buildings. And so if you're someone like me who goes, well, I don't fly a whole lot, but if you go to any federal building, like Social Security Administration, you're going to have a real ID.
Correct.
And so let's talk about that.
Okay.
So when I come in and I'm going to get my real ID, what are some documents that I need to bring with me?
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you, I'm not familiar with the real ID as much as I'm familiar with passports.
Right, right.
Because the real ID will have to be, you have to go to the DMV to get that. But you do have to give like 2 proofs of residency, which is utility bill, water bill, something like that.
Right.
Your birth certificate, some kind of ID, school ID. You're going to need all of that. I'm guilty. I do not have a real ID, but I'm going to tell you what. All of our bills, my water bill, my utility bill, all of that is in my husband's name.
I was going to ask that because mine is as well.
And we're actually getting a lot of people coming in to get a passport card.
Okay.
Because the passport cards are the size of a driver's license. And a passport is going to trump a real ID anyway.
Okay.
So if you've got a passport book or a passport card and don't have a real ID, be sure to take that with you until you get the real ID. Or if you're going to be like me, I'm probably never going to get a real ID. We are seeing a really upflow of people coming in to get passport cards because we had one lady come in that said, well, I went to change my utility bill into my name, but it was going to be a $125 deposit.
Yes.
Well, passport cards are $30.
Right, right.
Real IDs are $40.
Right.
So what do you want to do? So we're really seeing an upflow of people coming in and getting passport cards because of that, of all the IDs that you have to show to get a real ID.
Okay, so you said that will trump the real ID. So if I have a passport card, that's actually even better than having the real ID. So what is the process of getting the passport card?
Well, you just come see us at our office in the circuit clerk's office there in the courthouse. We take your picture for you. That's a $10 fee for that. And the passport card is $30.
Okay.
But then you have a passport acceptance fee that you have to pay no matter where you go. If you go, because here in Saline County, we have several places. You can go to a Saline County library, or you can go to the post office. We get a lot of people. The post office sends a lot of people to us. But it's a $35 fee. So really, to get a passport card is going to be more than going and getting a real ID. But you may not have to pay a $125 deposit somewhere on top of the $40. But we have the paperwork, and we make it really easy.
What all documentation do you need for that?
You just need your birth certificate and driver's license.
Check.
Yeah.
I've got both of those.
And that's easy. You don't have to have anything changed into your name. So you just come in and we'll take care of you. So there's I just went blank. Oh, the passport acceptance fee. That's one positive thing about coming to our office, because that money that we generate is turned back to our county general fund.
Okay.
And we actually started passports in 2016, where I got elected. And I just recently was just adding up on what we've turned back to the county. And when we began doing passports, we just did passports. We didn't do the pictures because I wanted just to see, because the photo, the camera and everything, it was pretty expensive.
Right.
So I wanted to build that money up and see if it was worth our office actually offering passports. Well, sure enough, it was. So we didn't start taking pictures probably until about a couple years. But we've actually, since 2016 to the end of 2024, we've turned back over $220,000 to our county general just by doing passports for the passport fee, and then that $10 fee for our pictures turned back to the county. So that's a positive note. if you come to our office to either get a passport or a passport card,
Right.
if you can't obtain a real ID.
And is that available across Arkansas at all county clerks?
No,
No?
it's not.
Okay.
There's probably only maybe 7 to 10 circuit
Okay.
clerks that offers that. When I was the office manager at Benton County,
Mm-hmm.
she offered passports, which of course Benton County, you've got Walmart and all that, and it was booming at that time.
Right.
And so she applied to offer passports, and I saw the impact. And so when I was running for this position, that's one of the things that I had ran on, was I
Right.
would like to offer the passport services to help our county general fund. And I remember I had people say, "Myka, are you crazy? There is no way that you're going to have that many people get a passport." Well, guess what?
Oh,
Turn back 220,000
right.
to our
Right.
county general.
Right. So on the passport ID, does that take place of the passport, like the little booklet, or
Okay, if you're going to fly,
right?
you have to have a book.
Okay.
If you're not going to fly, you need a card.
Okay.
Well, now,
And fly, we're talking international.
yeah, international.
Right.
Now you can use the card. You'll have to have a card to fly domestic now,
Right.
as you want to say. We have, if I can share a little quick story.
Yeah.
People that they go on cruises.
Right.
And I had a really good friend that said, "Why should I get a book? Myka, you're telling me, or suggesting for me to get a book." And I said, "Well," and her name was Alice. I said, "Alice, think about it this way. You and your husband is on a cruise
Mm-hmm.
and you have an emergency
Mm-hmm.
that you need to get back here in the States, or one of you have an emergency. You can't fly back with just a card.
Right.
You're stuck over in wherever you're at, Cancun, Jamaica, or wherever, until you can get on another boat to come over here."
Mm-hmm.
Well, sure enough, they were in their 3rd day of the cruise, and he had a heart attack
Oh, wow.
and was in a Mexico hospital for almost a month.
Mm.
If they would not have gotten that book, they probably would have been in Mexico for another month.
Right.
So, to have a book, I always, or to be safe, I say spend that little extra money to get a book.
Right.
But now, since you're going to have a real ID to fly domestically, passport card will do the same thing.
Okay. Very good. Well, Myka, thank you so much for joining us today and helping to give us such a good picture of this act and the passport IDs and the real ID. I really appreciate that. And behind the scenes look at how this new law is going to play out at the courthouse level.
Yeah.
I appreciate your passion that you have brought on this. I know we can go back years when I know that you have been speaking on this and educating people on the fraud. And so I just really appreciate that. To our listeners, Act 752, it may sound like a simple ID check, but it's another example how the smallest changes in the law can have lasting effects on your rights, your privacy, and the way government interacts with people. Join us next time on Arkansas First Reports as we continue to explore important issues that affect your family here in Arkansas. Until then, stay strong, stay free, and stay Arkansas first.